the voting station, allow me to welcome the commissioners of the Electoral Commission as they join us for this very auspicious occasion. Matona le amogetswe. We are privileged to have you as leaders of our country. I'll be handing over to my colleague, Thabo, the Provincial Electoral Officer for Gauteng, will be voting in his voting stations. Thabo, let's get the show on the road. Thank you very much. Matona le amogetswe.
May you be seated. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Thabo Masemula. I'm immensely honored to be your program director this afternoon. What a profound and historic occasion we have before us this afternoon as we gather in these new grounds. The National Results Operations Center represents the embodiment of the Electoral Commission's transparency and accountability. The ROC will be the nerve center of electoral information for members of the media, the public, political parties, as well as independent candidates. The public will see all they've told me. Furthermore, you will be able to follow finalized results on all social media platforms, broadcast media, online. One vote is what guides us as a nation. The Constitution, which commits us to hold free and regular elections, is our rock and our solid foundation. Transparency, accountability, and ethical conduct are the most important values in the area of our work as the Electoral Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to, this afternoon, to recognize key institutions, personalities, and stakeholders that supports our democratic project. I wish to acknowledge and recognize the following distinguished guests: the Acting Speaker of the National Assembly, Mr. Chisa Tsinoli, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, and the commissioners seated right in front of us. Furthermore, I wish to acknowledge the presence of the Chief Electoral Officer and his entire executive management team. I also wish to recognize my peers, the provincial electoral officers present in this gathering. I also wish to recognize the former commissioners and the chief executive of the Electoral Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to also recognize Lieutenant General Mtombeni, the provincial, and his entire management team. Furthermore, I wish to acknowledge and recognize the presence of the national prosecuting authorities, representatives of various political parties, independent candidates, the leadership of our partner ESCOM, domestic and international observers present here, partners of the Electoral Commission, the non-governmental organizations present, all diplomats present, members of the Audit Committee of the Electoral Commission, representatives of the private sector, members of the media, and ladies and gentlemen. On that note, may I request that we rise for the rendition of the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Commissioner Judge Pillay to address us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thabo, Program Director. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Results Operations Center for this year's national and provincial elections. We in the IEC have been on a roller coaster ever since the move to amend the legislation affecting elections started. We have had nail-biting moments to get the amending legislation through Parliament, and then the amendments were challenged in court. And once the timetable got underway, we were again rolling with the punches. No less than 17 court cases implicating these elections bombarded us. Our score stands now at 14-0 in our favor, of course. You can applaud. 3 cases are still outstanding. I think one is in court at the moment. And so this weekend, after 111 voting stations abroad opened on time, we were relieved. Relief turned to joy as photographs of 5-hour-long queues of voters snaked the cities. Simultaneously in Chelsea, we hear that South Africa was also winning awards at the flower show. And here's a message from an unknown sender that inspired me to address you today. Good evening, Mr. Kalemba. Everybody knows Mr. Kalemba here. I was following the elections, says this unknown person, for South Africans living abroad. Wow, the turnout was amazing this year. I couldn't help feeling emotional when I saw how many people were in the lines and how excited everyone looked. Congratulations to the IEC for making it possible for those that are living outside of South Africa to vote. Sometimes we forget how advanced our democracy is and what a progressive country we are. Well done again to the IEC. I truly felt proud. You can. And so this message got me thinking, is voting rational or emotional, or is it something in between? And what's the difference between judges making decisions and voters making their choice at the ballot box? Judges hear speeches from lawyers representing litigating parties, and voters hear speeches from political parties and their candidates. Now, although voters listening to a political speech may fall off to sleep on the couch in front of their televisions, but judges dare not do so. Judges have to apply their minds independently, impartially, and dispassionately to all the information put before them, and judges may not toss a coin to choose between guilty and not guilty, and judgments must be reasoned and rational. In this way, judgments are limited, constrained, but so too are voters' decisions. Their choice of political party and independent candidate are limited to those who appear on a ballot sheet. If the voters would have preferred someone else and not one on the ballot sheet, they will have to choose the next best candidate or political party. In making their choice, voters may think and debate long and hard, or they might just say eeny, meeny, miny, moe. And voters do not have to be independent, impartial, or dispassionate. On the contrary, the opposite is true. Voting is intensely partisan and passionate. Judges who are overturned on appeal may not throw tantrums, at least not in public. Voters and their political parties and candidates who lose are not similarly constrained. So as we in the IEC brace ourselves for the barrage of abuse from losing parties, candidates, and supporters, we look to you, our stakeholders, for protection. And as we emerge from this experience of heightened litigation, we go forward reflecting on how 2 streams of decision-making, one through the courts and the other through the ballot box, come together to make democracy work. I wish you all a constructive and festive NPE 24. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Judge Pillay, for those heartwarming and edifying opening remarks. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to take this opportunity to invite the Chief Electoral Officer of the Independent Commission of South Africa to address us. Thank you very much, CEO. Over to you.
My teleprompter is not working, so you'll have to pardon me. Okay. Thank you, Program Director. And let's rest on the protocol that has been established for today. In just a week, registered voters will have a constitutional encounter at voting stations. This encounter will offer each voter a unique opportunity to register a political choice. An election is an intersection between a people and their political rights. This defining encounter is an affirmation, one without prevarication, of our collective commitment to electoral democracy with its salient characteristics of regular elections within a system of multi-party competition. The Electoral Commission is the motive force for facilitating this constitutional encounter for the country. Put differently, the Commission is an instrument at the service of a people to enable a constitutional encounter. This election is about making democracy work or giving democracy a practical face. This is the perspective that informs our understanding of the enormity of the constitutional responsibility we carry. We owe South Africa and her people an election that undoubtedly measures to international and our own constitutional standards. Failure in this regard will have history pronounce harsh sentiments on us and our generation. As we approach the grand finale of this electoral odyssey, the Commission today launches the National Results Operation Center, ROC, which is a theater of electoral democracy, electoral transparency. Indeed, a theater of electoral dreams and political aspirations. Like the biblical Peter, this is the rock on which South Africa builds its house for manifesting electoral transparency. Indeed, a prism through which the world is given a glimpse of the intricacies of electoral operation. Housed at the Gallagher Convention Center in Midrand, this rock will serve as the beating heart of our electoral process. It comprises offices for commissioners, staff, operational areas for coordinating the entire electoral process, political parties, radio and television studios. This rock is the foundation upon which transparency rests. All role players will have appropriate access to system-based reports. These reports will provide a national state of play vis-à-vis the unfolding electoral process. A matter of substantial import is that the results of each voting station, once audited, will be instantaneously availed to political parties and the media through an application programming interface. This rock will be an enduring symbol of our electoral architecture. Indeed, a temporary monument for facilitating of constitutional guarantees so eloquently elucidated in Section 19 of our Constitution. But this rock will be a platform from which our collective leadership will be tested. It will be a place of political temerity. It will be a ground from where our vaunted love for motherland will be tested. Today, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment as the journey to the election enters its final and most critical stage. An important milestone was reached on 17 May when the first votes in these elections were cast. We've seen throngs of South African voters at 111 diplomatic missions enthusiastically waiting their turn to express their political choices in this constitutional encounter. Although we have no definitive account of voter turnout at this point, Preliminary indications are that we have significantly surpassed previous performance. Once again, our gratitude goes to the Department of International Relations and Cooperation and its staff for making this exercise possible. I forgot to do that like the judge was doing. Without this partnership, this constitutional encounter for citizens in the world would have been impossible. Remarkable is the joyous atmosphere created by South Africans at the various missions. The patience displayed also served to indicate their commitment to vote. This is the spirit that we need to take into elections next week. We need to be patient and create a joyous atmosphere at the voting stations, for elections are also about celebrating our common nationhood. The logical progression in the unfolding electoral process is to provide registered voters in special circumstances an opportunity that they too are availed an opportunity for political expression. We have a model of democracy that recognizes the need for those in special circumstances also to record their choices. Our electoral scheme is not an exclusive preserve for the fit and healthy. It is rather a constitutional encounter for all registered voters. Therefore, the Commission will administer special votes from 1.6 million voters on the 2 days preceding Election Day. Pertinently, voting officials will visit 624,000 voters at their homes of places of confinement. 1 million people will be assisted at voting stations where they are registered. The provinces with the most approved special votes for both home visits and voting station visits are Gauteng at 335,000, KwaZulu-Natal 320,000, the Eastern Cape 286,000, Limpopo 159,000, the Western Cape 137,000, Northwest 132,000, Mpumalanga 126,000, the Free State 86,000, and the Northern Cape 83,000. It is important to point out that in addition to our trained our trained electoral staff, together with agents from political parties and independent candidates, as well as observers, are allowed to join mobile teams as they visit various homes. We nonetheless offer caution that some voters may be in dire circumstances and thus request that their privacy be honored so as to vindicate their dignity. As we embark on this momentous journey, we find inspiration in the unwavering commitment of electoral staff who are charged with the actual facilitation of the voting process at the 23,292 voting stations. These officials will diligently attend to the needs of those unable to visit voting stations, ensuring a seamless and inclusive voting experience for all. We've appointed 203,000 electoral staff to administer the voting process. A further 70,000 officials have been appointed as counting officers to ensure that there's quality in the counting process and the result slips are completed without error. This additional measure is not meant to supplant the role of the presiding officer, but is intended as an additional resource to facilitate the correct counting process. This new feature of the counting procedure underscores our resolute commitment to upholding the integrity of the electoral process. The profile of the voting staff is as follows. 73% are female. 28% is youth under the age of 25. 84% are the unemployed. As we hand over the baton to presiding officers to facilitate the voting process, we also remind them to never compromise electoral probity, which is the cornerstone of integrity. We say to colleagues, remember that this election is not about us, and it is certainly not about our prejudices. An election is about the 27 million registered voters whose political choices we are called to facilitate and record. In this regard, we dare not fail. A ballot paper is a basic commodity in the electoral process. An election without a ballot paper, either electronically or physically, is an affront to the very notion of an election. The Commission, therefore, takes immense pride in announcing the completion of the ballot printing project. Final packaging and labeling have been done, and delivery will be finalized imminently. The final leg of the distribution chain at the local storage sites is aligned with the commencement of the casting of special votes on the 27th of May. Revisions to the electoral system have had implications to the number of ballot papers to be used in this election. As a novel reality, voters will be presented with 3 ballot papers. I briefly outline the ballots as follows. Firstly, the national proportional representation ballot will bear the names of political parties only. This is to be used to restore overall proportionality and thus ensure the outcome of an election is proportional in general, which is in compliance with constitutional requirements. This ballot paper is blue in color. Secondly, the provincial to national ballot or the regional ballot is meant to ensure provincial representation in the composition of the National Assembly. The election based on this tier of the National Assembly will be contested by parties and independent candidates. This ballot is brown in color. Provincial ballots are used to elect members of provincial legislatures. Both parties and independent candidates will be contesting on this ballot. This ballot is pink in color. So if for some reason you forget what each ballot paper represents, at least remembers the color, blue, brown, and pink. So when they give you 2 of pink and 1 of brown, say, no. They need to be differently colored. So given the big number of 52 contestants on the national ballot, this ballot is configured in 2 columns with 26 parties on each side. Now, to negate the inadvertent spoils on this ballot, we remind all voters of the hallowed principle in voting, and that is 1 ballot, 1 mark. So don't think that you are enhancing the chances of your political party by marking it several times. 1 ballot paper, 1 mark. It is a great honor that we welcome a record-breaking 160 organizations which will cumulatively deploy 5,000 observers. This includes esteemed international bodies such as the African Union, Southern African Development Community, SADC, the Carter Center Democracy Program, the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, the Electoral Commission Forum of SADC countries, along with legends of domestic observers committed to upholding the principles of transparency and accountability. Some of the heads of the observer missions are part of the proceedings this afternoon. Excellency, welcome once again. In our pursuit for inclusivity, we have implemented measures to ensure that the voting process is accessible to all South Africans, regardless of physical disability. In collaboration with the South African National Council for the Blind, we have again developed the Universal Ballot template, which is a voting aid designed to empower persons with disabilities and special needs to exercise their voting independently and with utmost secrecy. As we approach this historic moment, we remind all voters of the general principle that governs elections. A person votes at the voting station where they are registered. The only exception to this rule is for those who have duly notified their commission of their intention to vote elsewhere, that they intend to vote at another station. So it is exceedingly important that you check your voting station before you go on the 29th. And there are different modalities which can be employed to check your registration station. Firstly, through an SMS 32810, through the call center 0800 11 8000, through the website elections.org.za, through the app, as well as through making contact with the local offices of the Commission. In other words, I'm saying, don't call and say, they say I'm not on the voter's roll of this voting station, because that you would have checked before you leave home on the day. In conclusion, I call upon all South Africans to answer the clarion call to make one cause with a constitutional encounter by voting in these elections. To the media, political respect by setting an example for generations to come. The Electoral Commission stands resolute in its commitment to declaring an election outcome which is a true reflection of the choices made by South African people, the ultimate custodians of our democracy. For it is your democracy and you must truly own it. May the spirit of unity, peace, patriotism guide us as we embark on this important journey, ensuring that the will of the people remains the unwavering commitment upon which our nation's future is built. May God of mercy and love bless us in our electoral project. Ke a leboga.
Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. CEO, thank you very much for the substantive and edifying readiness report. And I can attest on behalf of the provincial electoral officers that we are ready as provinces. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite the Chairperson of the Electoral Commission of South Africa, Mr. Mosotho Miepja, to address us. Over to you, Chairperson.
Esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, fellow compatriots, friends, partners, sponsors, what a joy it is to have you here this afternoon. It is indeed a special occasion for us to know that we never walk this journey alone. The 2024 national and provincial elections are upon us. As the Electoral Commission of South Africa, we inaugurate this National Results Operations Center for the 2024 national and provincial elections with a profound sense of responsibility and humility. It is a facility that has a very rich and profound history in the South African general elections landscape. The National Results Operations Center stands not merely as a physical space, but as a testament to our unwavering commitment to transparency and integrity in the electoral process. Here, within the walls of this building, this place, which will affectionately get to be known as the Rock, South Africa's commitment to free and fair elections will find its profound stronghold. For 3 decades, this amphitheater of election transparency has borne witness to the announcement and certification of results in national, provincial, and local government elections. It symbolizes our nation's steadfast dedication to electoral democratic principles and practices. I extend this afternoon a warm welcome to representatives from all political parties, independent candidates contesting these elections, and every voter that is registered and will be participating in these elections. Your presence here underscores the collaborative effort required in the management of elections. Throughout this journey, the Political Liaison Committee has remained engaged and ensured that there is no step that we take that is not consulted, that is not open to transparency, and that is not, that escapes inclusivity in its process. The presence of domestic, regional, and international observers, the members of the diplomatic corps here, the representatives from the state, that is, of the 2024 national and provincial elections, it is worth looking back to see how far we have come with measures we have implemented to ensure election transparency and integrity. At this point, please permit me to mention a few of these measures. The first, we have established a network of voting stations which will serve this nation conveniently. This we have done in a process that sought to ensure that voting stations are not only optimally located to provide access to voters within communities that they serve, but that they are consulted with all of our stakeholders and signed off even as we finalize them. All of our 23,292 voting stations that the Chief Electoral Officer mentioned have in fact been signed off by local communities and are known in those local communities. This is an engagement we take for granted in our nation. But in many nations across the world, this in itself can become a source of major disputes. We are blessed to have measures that ensure we finalize every step of an election before we embark on the next. Second, in our pursuit to provide registration opportunities to qualifying persons, the Commission maintained an online voter registration platform. It targeted areas impacted by new settlements, patterns, or low levels of voter registrations. It offered 2 registration weekends across the country. In addition, the Commission registered South African citizens at correctional facilities across the Republic and went further afield to register South Africans at all of our missions abroad. It is worth pointing out, thirdly, that voters are registered in areas where they are ordinarily resident. Ahead of the certification of the voters' roll, opportunities were opened for everyone that needed to look at this voters' roll and say, indeed, Commission, you have done what you're meant to do. Objections were received. The voters' roll was open for inspection. Objections were received. They were adjudicated, and the voters' roll was certified. Indeed, no one can come back today and say, you have people on the voters' roll that you did not give us an opportunity to object to. No one can say, you have people registered that should not have been registered. No one can say, we never had the opportunity to raise any objection to that process. The Commission has determined the design of the ballot papers to be used in the 2024 national and provincial elections. This we have done after consulting everyone participating in these elections. Not only did we do so, we followed that through with everyone participating in this election, representing a party or an independent candidate, in fact, having the opportunity to sign off their ballot papers. There are many, many, many other measures that we have taken to safeguard the integrity of these elections. We have designed, specified, developed, tested, and audited the result systems to be used in these elections. All of this work has been done by our own in the Electoral Commission. We have put these results systems to the test when we put them to independent auditors that we procured through a public procurement process to audit them to ensure that they would be fit for purpose. These audits have been completed. Parties contesting in these elections and candidates have been given the opportunity to bring their own auditors to audit the systems as well. And I can assure you this afternoon that where something was found, it would have had to be corrected. This process is completed, and the result systems will be used in these elections are also fit for purpose. There are other extensive measures to validate
through, there are officers that are reflecting the presence of the media here. We have over 1,000 journalists who will be joining us in this exercise. We welcome you, and in particular, we welcome our partnership with the SABC that has sponsored and made this place possible. We also wish to pay a special thanks to Telkom, who have not only helped us with what Telkom is supposed to do, but who have also been really important sponsors to make this place a success. Thank you very much. We also have, as you heard, over 5,000 observers, some of whom are present with us here today, and it is your impartiality and your distance that will help us all to protect what is so precious and to keep all of us who are part of the Commission on our toes so that we will not only perform well this time, but going forward we will do what the Commission has always done, which is striving to be better and to be at the head of the pack of electoral management. That's what we do. I also want to thank, in particular, everybody who is part of the electoral staff. This is a huge endeavor that started a journey under the leadership of our Chief Electoral Officer and our provincial electoral officers. It is a journey that started 2 years ago. It's a journey that you heard from the judge has seen us having to deal with many punches along the way and a huge amount of uncertainty. But it's a journey that they have steered with an amount of imagination and commitment. It's no mean feat, for example, to ensure that we recruit transparently 273,000 people to serve the voting stations of this country. So I thank you from our support staff. I thank you who are part of electoral operations, and I thank you who have done this magnificent work in outreach on behalf of the commissioners. But importantly, I also thank all of our stakeholders who have helped us to reinforce our conflict prevention and our mediation activities, who are continuing and we hope will continue to help us to combat disinformation, and who have helped us to mobilize South Africans to recognize not only the importance of elections, but also to recognize their duty to vote. I want to thank the contestants, the political parties and the independent candidates. Some of you have campaigned vigorously, and that too has inspired both public debate as well as an awareness that, as you've heard, extended way beyond the borders of our country to inspire South Africans from all parts of the world to embrace our democracy with joy, with patience, and with commitment. So thank you. And in particular, I want to say to all South Africans, both those of you who are here and the rest of the 27 million voters who are looking at this opening of the rock, we want you to vote and we want you to appear in all of your numbers so that we as the Commission can fulfill our promise to make the decision, to make the voice of the South African voter the decision that we are able to announce when we declare the election results. That's our commitment to you, and we look forward to that with a great deal of enthusiasm. So thank you very much, and thank you all for being here. We look forward to the next week before we are able to regroup again in order to announce those results. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Love. Last round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. This brings us to the end of our program this afternoon. I wish to express my appreciation to the Chief Electoral Officer and the entire Commission for taking me to stand in front of you this afternoon. It's been a great pleasure. There are two announcements that I wish to make before we usher you to the banquet hall. If you have lost any item, please report to the security desk, whether car keys, home keys or phones, or whatever valuables, please report to the banquet room. And the last announcement is a lighter one, that you are invited for a light cocktail, and the ushers stand ready to usher you to the banquet hall. Thank you very much. This brings us to the end.
I have to go back to Pretoria, unfortunately, but thank you.
My session. Yeah, no, there's a green light. No, it wasn't. No, man, it's okay. I got no, it's